This is Houston architecture. Architecture meets Kandinsky, Wasily Kandinsky. That's where you're seeing these circles here, and then these are actual Houston buildings. So pretty cool, right? So we're going to get that started right away. Let's talk about the materials that you'll need for today. To begin, you'll need a piece of paper, white paper, and you don't want to use it long like this. You want to turn it so that it's in landscape mode. And then if you have oil pastels, you'll need those. If you do not have them, then markers will also work just fine. You also need a black Sharpie or a black permanent marker or pen. You need a pencil, an eraser, and a ruler. Are you guys ready to get started? All right, here we go. Okay, so to get started, we are going to begin by actually drawing our buildings, okay? So, all the way over here on this far side of your paper, you're going to begin by lining up your ruler. Line up the bottom edge here of your ruler to the bottom edge of the paper, okay? And you're going to draw a line that comes up till about there. Let's say about 3/4 of the paper. All right, and then you're going to draw another line right next to it that's a little bit, the space in between is a little bit smaller here than the space that you see here. So this is like maybe a whole inch, and this is more like 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to draw a line there as well. And it's going to be a little bit shorter than this line here, and that's because we're going to use perspective to actually create three-dimensional buildings. So I'm going to go ahead and start using my Sharpie marker so that you can see what I'm doing, but you should be using pencil, okay? You should be using pencil. So I'm just going to go over my lines that I just did. You can go over yours at the very end after you've adjusted and corrected as necessary. So now that I have one longer line, one slightly shorter line, this line right here, I'm going to draw a slight diagonal that goes like that and ends on the end of the paper. And then for this section here, I'm going to draw a diagonal that connects those two corners, okay? So we have our first three-dimensional building. Next, let's say about, maybe about 2 inches away, 1.5 inches. Let's do 1.5 inches. I'm going to mark it right here at 1.5 inches, and I'm going to lay my ruler next to it. And this next building is going to be about half the height of the next building, so the building we just finished. So I'm going to go up about halfway and stop, and then I'm going to draw a diagonal line like this and another diagonal line like this. They're pretty much an equal diagonal on both sides. And then I'm going to draw a straight line. You see where this point is here, or this corner? That is where I'm going to draw a straight line that meets that corner. Okay, now we have building number 2. Building number 3 is going to be about 2 inches wide. So if you use your ruler, you can mark it 2 inches. And for this building, I am going to go approximately just as high as this one. I'm going to go up till about here. And then I'm going to do a slight diagonal here and a slight diagonal here and a line again in the middle that hits the corner that was created with my 2 diagonals. But for this building, we're going to add something on top of it. So this line right here that is straight in the middle, we're going to go up a little bit higher with it like that. And then we're going to create a diagonal line right here that looks something like that. And then we're going to create our second diagonal line right here that goes like this, like that. Yep, there we go. And then these lines will all be connected together. So you'll have this line here, and you'll have another line right here. So that is building number 3. Building number 4 is a real treat. Okay, so for this next building, we want to do about 1.5 inches over. No, actually, let's do 2.5 inches wide. Okay, you can see that I have it marked at the 2.5 inches. And so I'm going to mark it right here. But the first part of the building is going to be like half the size. So we're going to come over here about halfway, and I'm going to come straight up, but it's going to be, we're going to stop about here, and then I'm going to make a triangular top, and this one hits that building right there. And then I'm going to draw a horizontal line that goes like that, and that horizontal line will have a parallel line right next to it that goes until here, and that line will hit right here. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and come down this way. So this is just part of the building. The next part of that building, I want you to put a little mark right here, and you're going to come up maybe about 1 inch. And once you've come up about 1 inch, then you'll do another sort of triangular top like this one. Go a little bit higher, and then you'll come back and do it over here as well. Another diagonal line. And finally, you will come down with a straight line all the way to the bottom. Okay? Now that you've done that, you are then going to draw a horizontal line up here, just like we did right here, and a parallel line that's diagonal, and then another horizontal right here. So we're basically repeating exactly what we did right here. Then this will come down to here, and then we're going to do one more final piece to this building. We'll do it one more time. We'll repeat one more time. So diagonal line right here, and then another diagonal line right here, and then we're going to come straight down. Pay attention to the spacing of the building. And same thing that we did here. We're going to repeat again. Horizontal line, diagonal line that's parallel to this line, another horizontal, and finally we will come straight down. That is building number 4. All right, building number 5 is about 1.5 inches wide. And we're going to come up. It's not going to be quite as tall as the one we just did. Let's stop there, like maybe 3/4 the height. And then you can do a diagonal that comes up, a diagonal that comes down, and then a perfectly vertical line right in the center that goes up to the corner. All right, then we are going to do another building. This one is going to be exactly like this one, but it's going to be a little bit taller, about the same width, about 1.5 inches. So we'll come up, 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 about this far. We'll do the same thing, diagonal, diagonal, and this will come down here like that. So it looks like this is overlapping this one. And where we have our point up here, our corner, we will do another straight line that comes down like that. And we're going to do 2 more last buildings. So we're going to go over here, about 1 inch wide. We will come up a little bit higher, than the building we just did. And for this building, we're going to do a very, 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 very small diagonal, like it's not super diagonal. And then straight down right here. And then we are going to draw another diagonal like that. And a straight line that comes down. And our final building will be a little bit shorter. We'll have a diagonal right here, another diagonal right here, and at the corner, at the point where the two diagonals meet, we will draw a straight line that comes down. Okay, so now we have all of our structures, okay? Now we're going to work on patterns and designs inside of the different buildings. And this can be whatever you want it to be. It's really up to you as far as what kind of designs you make. But I'm just going to share with you bits and pieces of the designs I did in mine. I'm not going to finish a whole building. I'm just going to start a pattern and stop and start a new pattern and stop, etc. And then you can either use what I'm teaching you or you can create your own. So for this building, I've decided to just do a diagonal grid. So I'm going to literally go like this, and you can use your ruler if you need to. But I would go all the way down with those diagonals, and then I would cross them like this. And I would just go all the way down doing the same thing. And then I would do the opposite diagonal on this side so that it's not exactly the same. So as long as the diagonal's not exactly the same, it should be fine. So you can see how I'm creating sort of that grid pattern, and I would just do that all the way down. For my next building, I'm just going to do straight lines like stripes that go vertically. So there's one, and I'm going to use my ruler so I have nice straight lines all the way down, all the way down again, all the way down. Just keep going, both sides, stripes. Remember, you can do your own patterns. It doesn't have to be the same exact thing. You guys are so creative and so talented, so I'm looking forward to seeing what you accomplish. Alright, for this next one, I've decided to do lines that parallel the angle at the top here, so I would just do that. And on this side, I would do that. I would go all the way down. And for this, I'm going to follow the diagonal of sort of this roof area and sort of do these vertical diagonals. And I would just continue this all the way down. For this one, I've decided to do sort of a brick type thing. So the first thing I would do would be to draw these horizontal lines that go down like this. And use your ruler if you need to. But I would just go all the way down, and I would do that here on this face and on this face of the building. And I'll do something different on the sides. But to create sort of a brick pattern, you begin by, in one section, you draw a line that's vertical. And then on the next row, you would draw vertical lines surrounding that line. And you would just continue that. So the next row, the line would be here. It wouldn't be directly under. And then it would maybe be here and here. And that's how you create sort of a brick pattern. So every row that is underneath the previous row, the lines are not directly under, but they're staggered. So I would continue that all the way through these three sections. And then I would do vertical lines for the sides. It would kind of give it some length and some continuity, and then I would just follow that up here as well. I would do the same thing here and here. Okay, for building 3, I'm going to do horizontal diagonals, and then big old gap of space, more horizontal diagonals, let's say 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then big gap of space, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in between those gaps of space, I'll do verticals. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can do the same thing on this side. Just follow the pattern that you've already did. Let it continue to. Okay, you guys, I went ahead and finished these a little bit more with a couple of examples for you. But remember, you'll want to finish the buildings all the way through, kind of like what you see here. You'll want to make sure you finish them all the way through. And now I'm going to show you how we do the color portion. Now, like I said, you can use oil pastels for this, or you can use markers. It's really up to you. But think circles, okay? It's just circles that are being repeated over and over again until you sort of have a pattern of circles that are layered. So I'm just going to start up here somewhere, and I'm just going to make a large one and another one that's a little bit smaller. And then this one's going to be cut off a little bit, and you don't want to go into your buildings. You want to try to make everything look like it's behind things. So here's another partial circle, and you see how I'm, you have to kind of imagine with your finger where it would go. And this one, and it might end here somewhere. Let's do another one right here. I'm pushing pretty hard with my oil pastels because I really don't want it to look like crayon so much. I want it to look really bold. Okay, and then we can do another one right here. We really want it to be in the entire background, so even the parts that are sort of in between the buildings, we'll want to do those as well, as if they're just right behind the building. Okay, so we've got that. That's our sort of our first color. Then I'm going to move on to my second color, and if you notice, I'm just going right on the inside of what I've already done, like that. And you don't always have to do the same sort of color pattern every single time. And then the next color that I'm going to do, and then the next color, and then maybe I'll move to this. What's going to happen is you're going to find that sometimes there's going to be, white spaces in between, and in some instances you're going to like that, and sometimes you're not going to like that, and you're going to want to fill those spaces in. So that's really a personal preference. So if you want to add into those white areas, you can do that with your colors very easily. So I'm going to add some green right here, maybe some of that right there. And then basically I'm just going to keep going. You can also start from the inside of your circle. So I could start with that and then go around the inside. For some people this might be easier. It just depends. It's preference, your own preference. So you just keep going and going and going and going and going until all your circles are filled in. And if you overlap on something, it's totally fine. It'll make some nice blending for you, which is cool, which would look nice. But not all colors blend nicely together, so it just depends on what you're pursuing. So since this one looks like it's in front of this circle, I'm not going to go over that. This is part of why we drew our circles before we started, so that we could maintain sort of this idea of overlapping and trying to make sure that things appeared, in front of or behind. So that's it. You will just continue building those circles up until you have your finished product. And then that is the end of this project. You can spend the whole week working on it. I just really can't wait to see what you do. So please ask your parents to post pictures online so that I can see them and give you feedback. I can't wait to see what you do. I'm so excited to see your beautiful artwork. I love you guys. I'll miss you, and I will see you soon. Bye all.